to evolve, and I had to, think of new ways of becoming this better version of myself.
The more hands you shake, the more money you make. And really, we're talking about in the context of the more people you meet, the more these deals kind of come about, because everyone's always looking for deals, these properties.
In market like this, what Paige doing is, merging herself with companies that create inventories. And not only that, being in a position where people come to you using your services, and then through there you can make inventory.
As Evan is getting his B-roll and content, welcome to another episode of Cash Flow Bros. And we have a special guest today, Miss Paige Nguyen.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming.
Everyone probably follow Paige on social media or watch me and see some of the videos that we've been together for the organization that we found and actually running right now. It's called VNARP, the Vietnamese National Association of Real Estate Professional. Paige is one of our former president, and it makes you feel old.
It does.
Former president, Miss Former President. There you go. And it's an nonprofit organization where we promoting our Vietnamese real estate professionals, creating a network opportunity and provide education. And our members, not necessarily all Vietnamese, but it's just throughout. But we hear about another topic. And I think Paige got caught up guard, threw in the pit for today's episode because we were just chit-chatting and talking about how one, have no money or anything like that and start a business out of thin air and create another avenue of cash flow. Obviously, Paige is very successful real estate professional. I'll let her introduce herself a little bit with the intention to help small business, create another avenue for you for cash flow. And as you know, you're on Cash Flow Bros. And it's all about cash flowing, creating multiple sources of income, because it depends on your age, where you are in your life, but you should have multiple sources of income, right? You can't wake up in the morning counting on that W-2 9-to-5 paycheck to paycheck. Or even if you want other luxury, for example, if you want to drive a nice car, create a source of income, cash flow that pays for that nice car. You see what I mean? So without further ado, thank you, Paige, for being on Cash Flow Bros. Please introduce about yourself.
Thank you so much. So serving as the past president for VNAR for the last 3 years, and been in the real estate profession industry as on the residential side for about 8 years. And I think over time, being involved in the nonprofit, I've always been very committee driven, very community forward. So naturally, being on social media, promoting my community, promoting, what is it that I do, and then bringing to where I am now. The conversation is like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. I remember that book, I remember that saying, and
exactly.
And over time, it's just like, you can't just have one, like Evan said, one source of income. You do certain things, and sometimes businesses kind of happen overnight, or just kind of these opportunities.
I think 80% of business time happen by accident.
By accident, yeah. And the most enjoyable thing is through life, everything's trial and error. There's a lot of, I've come to realize and learn that I'm not afraid of failure, because every failure you learn, there's a lesson out of it. And if you don't fall flat on your face, how are you going to progress and learn from your mistakes and move forward through life? So flash forward today where, now I'm currently, my new office location is in Vietnam Town. And, naturally, there was an untapped market where there wasn't a lot of online presence for Vietnam Town.
Yeah.
And me just being there, I say, for whatever time, whatever length that I am here, I want to give back. I want to promote Vietnam Town. I want to promote and learn the stories of the business owners in Vietnam Town. And that's just how that's just my intention. So just within a month, by going around, introduce myself.
Hold on. Before we get there, I want to slow you down a little bit. And I want to make sure our audience is capturing all the information here. Tell us more about your current business in Vietnam Town.
Yeah.
And, so you just changed company lately, but why did you decide to move in a more of a niche location like Vietnam Town?
Great question. So my background, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a residential realtor. I recently switched brokerage as a boutique brokerage, but I think in the forefront, I've always wanted to be, I was never meant for a traditional brokerage. I knew I wanted to be in a very modern, very niche
corporate structure.
More culture structured. And then when we had the expansion that they were gonna have a new office in Vietnam Town, my previous office was in Satana Row. In the very beginning, everyone's like Satana Row, but over 2 years, it wasn't fulfilling for me. There was just something missing. And being, serving in the Vietnamese community, it was homecoming for me. There was just something that I felt that was a calling.
It's like fitting in the gloves.
Yeah, and then on top of that, our VNAP board meetings is also Vietnam Town. So it was just, everything just kind of fell into place. So when my new office opened just a month ago, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna maximize and make the most out of my time here. And just as a short couple of weeks, me, just being in Vietnam town, learning that there was just so much activity, there's just so much culture, there's just so much stuff that's going on that not a lot of people know about.
Right.
And using my, experience and knowledge, I already knew like I can help, these business owners. And so I took over the Vietnam Town Instagram, and I just wanted to highlight the businesses that was in Vietnam Town. I wanted to get to know the business owners. I wanted to promote their business. I wanted to drive more foot traffic, and make it more lively.
So what you did there is you took your experience, let's say your professions, so what you know, and then you combine it, you add a little salt and pepper and your passions.
Yes.
And your, why you joined VNOP. And I think I recruited you to join VNOP because of your background in writing. You're telling a story. Just so many of you guys know, people are now on social media are now gravitating to stories because why we call stories shorts and things like that, why Instagram call it stories, right? Because it's really a story. You're in about 30 seconds, you're sharing something about your life. And as a background in writing and also with your profession in real estate, you came into this idea with a passion to help other. And now tell us more about the business that you recently found.
Yeah, so I made it a daily activity where I was going to walk around, introduce myself, get to know what type of businesses were in Vietnam Town, because before I was just in and out. And then the more I talked to business owners, I started realizing there was a consensus of a lot of people didn't have an online presence. A lot of people didn't have Yelp pages. They didn't have an Instagram. And a lot of these pages were inactive. So I said, I'm going to bring all this together and revive the Vietnam Town Instagram. And I just want to feature all the business there, and then the day-to-day, because being a consumer, eating at all the great restaurants, there's 8 boba shops in Vietnam Town, and I just want to share my experience. Wow. And slowly, out of the blue, when I was introducing the Vietnam Town Instagram, I had a business owner who told me that he needed help. And then from there, it became 5 other conversations that's all said the same problem. They needed help with their social media.
Right.
And this is my passion. This is something I'm good at. I know I study the metrics. I study and, all the social media platforms. So for me, being community focused and driven first, this just naturally came about. And it wasn't because I was pitching or I wanted to sell something. It was me, providing value. And in return, the business owners came with me with an issue that I can help solve.
I love that you're getting into this, and what you were saying earlier about how all these businesses that you came onto just happened overnight. I totally disagree. I mean, it feels like that, but it totally makes a lot of sense, because from what everyone was saying, from you starting writing and having that passion, and obviously stories sell, but it also does what you've been wanting to do, which is build communities.
Yes.
And have like kind of a passion for that. And then all of a sudden, you using that passion, it just got you opportunities to all this kind of cool stuff. I also want to commend you on one thing, which is bless your heart for wanting to do social media for all these Vietnamese community people. Because even for myself, I have parents, I have cousins that have businesses that ask me to do their social media all the time, because I do social media, and I'm like, please, I can't help you at all, because I don't want to show anything. I don't want to be tech support. Right? But you took that niche and you're running with it, because also you're a community builder. So it all kind of is working out. Kind of cool to see.
So is this the new genesis of Paige? Tell us more about your vision and where you're going to take it from here.
Yeah, I think this is something that naturally it wasn't something I didn't think I was going to run a social media business. But anyone that has known me in the past or has followed me or are friends with me on social media know how active and present I am. And I think by that strength, if I can help, one, but being able to help many others, that's the most important thing to me. And going forward is, okay, how, if this is going to be able to grow to, 10 business owners that want our help during the month, I'm not going to think about the bigger picture. How many other team members can I bring on that can help, that this is also their passion. Yeah. So I can also help them find, is it that what they want to get better at? What is it that their skills, and who is it that they want to help? So I'm creating another avenue to have people explore their passions.
What's one thing that, if someone was listening to this, right? Because you have had your toes dipped into a lot of things that came through your passion? Like, the community building got you good at real estate because you were helping people build those relationships. And then, the staging came out of nowhere because you were building relationships with these real estate agents that needed help with that. And then fast forward to this. What's one of the key things that you would say to somebody who's trying to start out, try to get into your position and
yeah, I think a lot of times, like, even for now, like hopping on this podcast, I didn't even share fully, like, me being a realtor. I also have a staging business and then being community focused. I think what it is I'm always open to trying new things. And I think along that way, it's just a self-discovery. You don't know what you're good at until you try, and you don't know what your strengths are until you explore, the opportunities and kind of just take it and just run with it. Before I was not always like this, but just about being successful, right? There's people who, living a life by design. There's people that I want to become one day. How do I get there?
Right.
I had to evolve. And then I had to, think of new ways of becoming this better version of myself. Because if you're going to stay comfortable and do what you're always going to be doing, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So I've always looked at successful people that I want to become. I see what is it they're doing, and I just put my own twist to it. I want to be authentic and genuine to myself. I'm not going to go on and, and live this, fabricate this life where that's not true to who I am.
Yeah.
So all these things that, I'm talking about community, my staging business, social media, this is all things that I love to do. So I would give anyone advice to kind of just explore, just do it and just don't be afraid. And you have to start, and you won't know, but it is one of those things sometimes easier said than done. But surround yourself with people who are, like-minded, who share the same interests as you, who are also doing what you want to do.
Right.
So that way it can, save you the headache of the, some failures or some whatever it is to get you where you want to be.
I mean, speaking of that with the people as well, because I don't think if I told you this, but me and Paige were in the same English class at De Anza Community College.
So what happened to you?
Exactly, and that's what I'm getting to, because that's where I knew you from.
Yeah.
And then I think the next thing I heard about was, I seen you doing real estate, and which is normal because we see a lot of that nowadays. But then the biggest thing that kind of like floored me was like, dang, Paige is president of VNARP. And what kind of got me is that you touched on it too. You were open to that opportunity, but you had to surround your people who got you into that. Can you talk about the motivation or the push from the people and being open
here we
and
go.
all that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, how did this all come about?
Yeah, because this is something I hold very near and dear to me, because a lot of people don't know, but I started out with VNARP as Evan's ghostwriter. I was also talking about comfort zone.
You discredit me. I'm being dismantled.
The secret's out.
But he's the editor.
Yeah, but then just one of those things where like I did not want to be in the spotlight. I was not comfortable, being in the forefront of anything. I wanted to learn more about VNARP. So I chose the back seat and I became his ghostwriter while learning what was VNARP all about. And then over time, I was pushed and to be the moderator, to be the MC for certain events where typically I would not, but I knew that I wanted to challenge myself, and I would replay and all this crazy scenarios in my head. And
let's take that back one step, because I really want the audience to relate to Paige here, because last 3 years COVID took a big toll on people's personality, right? So a lot of people became introverts or not socializing become the difficult thing for them to do.
We had to learn how to socialize again.
Correct. And myself included. But Paige, prior to VNARP, describe the girl that that was prior to VNARP.
Prior to VNARP.
Before you could become a very savvy entrepreneur per se. Share with us and for the audience who can actually relate to this. And I hope you watch this episode and understand where Paige came from and where she is today as far as mindset wise. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
So growing up, I've always going to school and thinking about careers. They always ask, what is it that you want to become one day? And in school they teach you very cookie cutter careers. So I thought, I want to help people. I want to become a nurse. So I took the fast road. Was doing the nursing prereqs for 3 years. Was volunteer at the hospital. But this is the time where I realized I commend people who are in the healthcare industry, but I didn't know how to disconnect myself. I was carrying a lot of the sadness and the weight coming home every day. So when I started dreading going to work, once I started dreading going to the hospital, that's when I realized I wasn't being fulfilled in the way that I thought it was going to be. So I actually dropped out of the program, and I had a very close friend. He did real estate out of high school. Him and his brothers had owned a brokerage, and I just had to talk to him just for advice. I said my whole life, I mean, not whole life, but for my, adult life, I was thinking I was going to go one route. Now I'm so scared to take, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I'm good at. And so I'm here open. I want to see where this takes me. I'm just going to take a leap of faith. So, he was in real estate, and then, just talking. And then he asked me one very important question. He says, what is it that you want for yourself? Because you're trying to figure out, what path I'm going to go. And I said, I want personal growth. I've never been in a position or a field or a job that gave me personal growth. I was working paycheck to paycheck. I was on the clock. So everything was just, I felt like a robot. So when I said that I wanted personal growth, I was ready to be challenged. I wanted a change. So he told me, get into real estate. And my first reaction was like, no. I was not a salesperson. I was actually listing all these things that I wasn't. But then he had to change my mindset. It's like, okay, these are things that those are your limiting factors. But you have to reprogram your mind and think about the possibilities. So from there, I said, I'm in a place where I'm not going back to nursing. I'm just going to go 110% face forward and take this leap of faith and see where it takes me. And then it's been a wild ride, and I'm just so grateful that I took that chance. Because now looking back, it's like I'm just so glad that I had the courage to leave something that wasn't working for me, and to be able to blossom into the Paige now. I tell people, if you saw me 10 years ago, I do not talk this much. I am not as vocal. I'm not expressive, but because I wanted to, be a better version of myself. Communication was a skill that I dived my head into books to become better at. I wanted to succeed in this career. So I started reading, watching YouTube videos on how to get better skills. So that way I can excel in this new career.
And now you are today, what's got you here? Like where you are today. Let's just say, let's talk about some of your mistakes, some of the things you've learned, and then the things that people can relate to.
Yeah, I think in the very beginning, I was, perfectionist. I was always hesitant to start something. I take forever to write a caption.
That's the number one pitfall.
Yeah, I take forever to do certain things, because as a writer, you think that whatever you write now is never going to be as good as what you last wrote. So I have, this is analysis paralysis. I'm overthinking, but I had to, how to overcome that. I had to think, consistency and just being true to myself and being able to provide value goes a long way, versus me stalling and thinking that what I'm doing is not good enough. It's just, I'm not alone in this whole process. Everyone has, struggles or, mental roadblocks that stops them from doing certain things. So, it's just been a learning process, and I've had many times, I've had mental breakdowns. I've had times where I felt like, where is this going? But overall, I just knew that I wanted to, succeed. I just want to continue growing and evolving and being the best version that I can be, so that I can help others along the way and can look at me and say, if Paige can do it, I can do it too.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey watching you grow from a young woman all the way to a very creative entrepreneur. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, because they feel like they're not good enough, or they not have done enough, or if they're failing too much, right? And I think a lot of things that I picked out of the story that you shared today is that you let your passion lead, you know what I mean? And you continue thriving and keep on trying new things.
Yes.
Right? And at the end of the day, that leads you back to creating revenues. And your passion sometimes doesn't have to be a liability. It can be a revenue, right? It can be a cash flow. So yeah, that's how you make your life fun. Yeah. And that's why it takes you back to the day that you made the decision to drop healthcare and go towards entrepreneurship, because you want to pair that together, and then you don't feel like you're working. Yeah. So people talk about that, and I watch it on YouTube all the time, and sometimes people talk about it sounds easier than done, right? But we're doing it. We're the byproducts of everything that we're doing every day.
Yeah, I totally agree, because even as simple as content creating, because you all you talked about right now is you were just following your passions, and then that's what happened. And even as simple as content creating for me and Evan, we're always trying to figure out, all right, what should we talk about today? What should we do this? What content should we do today? And I heard something really interesting where it doesn't really matter what type of content you guys think about or think what other people think about. As long as you're passionate about it, it's going to come through when you talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to get you all those people that, whoever relates to you, they're going to watch that.
And our podcast is never about saying fancy things or giving you something that we read in the book. It's life stories and also, people mistakes and our mistakes that we've learned, that we hope that our audience can gravitate to these stories and pick something out of it and help themselves, right? So I think that's why this podcast is for that purpose. Is never, we're not selling anything.
Hence the bros, because we're just trying to keep it casual. And, girls can be bros too, but we want to keep it casual and let everybody into the conversation that we're having. And this is a great conversation because I think a lot of people do know you, but a lot of people don't know kind of the mindset and the things that you kind of had to go through to get to where you're at today. And
Yeah, and just to jump on that, it's like a lot of questions I've had in the recent years, people thought I was always this way. And I tell them, no, I wasn't. Yeah. If you met me, even my friends that grew up with me, they can see the transformation of how confident I've become, how business savvy I've become. But all this, I tell them all the time, it's like, you seen me back then. I was not like this, but because I wanted more for myself. I wanted, a better life. I wanted better choices. I want better options. And it was just something that I just decided to just have an open mind and went for it. And of course, nothing is a smooth sailing, but by sharing, having a platform, sharing my stories, sharing journeys, just along like, you and Evan, is being able to connect with the audience and realize, this is not an isolated event. We're all have felt some sort of pitfall, failure, whatever it is, we're all the same. It's just, we had different journeys and paths to get to where we are. But yeah, nothing, success is not smooth sailing.
Totally. Yeah. There's definitely someone that can connect with your story for sure. But fast forward to today, we talked about it a little bit, but you just joined a different brokerage, kind of a big deal. But can you talk about a little bit about Forte Real Estate and your new spot and, all the happenings with that?
Yeah. So our parent company is Salo Homes Realty and Development. We are the Forte Real Estate team. So we are a newer team under Salo Homes, but this has just been my passion in, I also have a background in interior design and home staging. So we're marrying all of that under one company. So, working with new construction, new builds, understand the process from A to Z, from before and afters, all of that is just now under in-house. My office is shared with an architect who also is Vietnamese, and we also work with a developer. So everything is just, it ties in, and I'm just learning so much. I'm just so grateful to be able to level up in the stage of my career. Having all the experience that I've went through now is always asking what's next. So, and also the location is just, being able to be in Vietnam town, having, a presence there, and now just like one-stop shop where I'm able to, do my work and give back to my community at the same time.
So let me sum this up. Who wouldn't want to come to work surrounded by 8 boba shops?
Yes.
And all you walk around is talking to entrepreneurs and helping clients building luxury homes and, putting your thought and creativity through someone's home and create something that people are gonna fall in love with and live on a daily basis. So I think that's a lifestyle. Do you think that lifestyle, let's just talk about that lifestyle a little bit. When people watching this, they're like, okay, that sounds all cool, but I don't know about real estate. I don't know about this. How do people gravitate to you? How do people start doing something that you're doing?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about real estate, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just not doing things out of my norm. This is what I do day to day. And, real estate is relationship based.
Right.
So we're genuinely wanting to help people. You are problem solvers, you're providing solutions.
Right.
So that's just how, the relationships are being built, and then business comes after. If you are transactional, if you're thinking about, what am I going to get out of this? Those are very short term. People is going to run the opposite direction. But if you are genuine, you truly want to help people,
right,
naturally, the business comes but the forefront is just having these relationships, these connections. And at the same time, I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much from every person that I meet, every business owner hand that I shake. It's just, it fuels me. It's like, what more can I do? And I'm just so excited to share their story. And at the same time, it's like I'm learning so much about myself too. So it's been a very fruitful new chapter. And I'm just excited to continue sharing my experience and journey.
respect, because no respect really, because me and Evan talk about it on the episode or on the show all the time, is that the more hands you shake, the more money you make. And really, we're talking about in a context of the more people you meet, the more these deals kind of come about, because everyone's always looking for deals, these properties. And you don't really find them until you make these relationships. But from your perspective or your situation, it's not like, oh, I got an off-market home from this relationship. It's, oh, I got more business that will show me other people or need help with this real estate deal, which just kind of feeds your business.
Yeah, and then naturally, being a part of VNAR, we are, a resource hub. So naturally, over the years, anyone that needed a recommendation or referral to a lender or a mortgage officer anywhere in the United States, naturally is, because being the past president of VNAR, people are already naturally asking me. Yeah. So now, being Vietnam Town and being, having a new brokerage, same thing. It's just now sharing, the resources that I have. And, people will naturally just come and ask for recommendations, and I'm happy to share my contacts and my referrals. So it's always been that, referral hub, and I'm excited to continue growing that database and growing the directory and helping those who don't know, that these resources are out there.
So let's ask this question. How do you find time to do all this?
Great question. Every time someone asks me, what do? I always ask them, do you have time? Because I have to, because everything, that I do, it sounds like a lot, but it also goes well together.
Right.
So most importantly, trying to have a real life balance is, time blocking, time management, and prioritizing, the must do for the day. And then of course, there's always going to be chaos and things that pop up, but you just do what you can. You do the important things first, and things are always going to, go off course, but just do what you can, time block, and then manage the most. Nothing's perfect. You gotta also roll with the punches. But for the most part, just time block.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I remember talking to you before in the past, and we talked about how much we always just flake on our friends. Because our friends are always having something going on, and because of our type of work and our nature, like, we got to take care of our clients first, right? And it made me feel so not alone, because you're like, oh, I always felt bad for flaking on my friends. And, you're like, dude, I can barely go to the important stuff, right? Yeah. But then I look at Evan, and like Evan goes to freaking every event. Yeah. So I'm like, everyone's different. But it just kind of stuck out to me that, you have a life too, you have a personal life. But, how you make all this happen is you do have to put some of that stuff on the main business and your clients and all that. Yeah. I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty if you guys don't mind. Because you did just start with Forte, and you're talking I like the concept because you guys have everything in-house. You guys have a designer, stager. I mean, I know, and it's just new, but where is most of the business coming from right now? Or like, what's the idea? Because there's a lot of real estate brokerages that pop up, but I mean, how are you getting business, and kind of talking a little bit about that? Like, what's the plan with Forte?
Yeah, so with Forte, we're powered by Sala Homes and Development. We're heavily backed up by investors. So a lot of the properties that are fixers, that are off market, they're getting picked up really fast. Yeah. Like even for us, like we have a list of records we use Lark, which is like a Chinese version of Slack. Yeah. Love it. I was getting used to it, but it's just a great tool. Learning all the listing records that pops up, like by the time we're looking at it, it's already being sold. Yeah. So we're having to be very proactive in all the, we have a flow chart of, okay, this is the pre-marketing activities, this is the on-market activities, post-marketing, after it's sold, all these activities, how to streamline that process, and we're able to leverage all the leads. So now having a team, because this is something that it would not have been possible if it was a one-man show. But because now we have a team, we're having to, facilitate all the different roles. That way we're able to maximize every property, being able to farm, being able to door knock, being getting all the marketing out, because from there we're already setting the tone for the next set of prospecting leads and all that stuff. Right. So it's just being able to really tap into a completely different market. They have a lot of new constructions, a lot of new builds in different areas. So for us now, having this off-market list or having the coming soons, we're able to, branch out and just email blast and get into the network of like our people who are looking in Campbell, Los Altos, Palo Alto, whatever it is. We're able to like really study the areas that we are having properties coming on the market and the buyers list, and then having to be very proactive and getting it out. So, and it's been moving very fast. So even with the new brokerage, being able to tap into completely different network.
And timing is everything.
Timing,
Because
yes.
right now what you're doing is you're creating inventory. And we're now at the time where we are 0.99% ratios of inventory, meaning that
There's
if
nothing.
there's nothing.
Yeah.
If we don't bring on new listing for anything to today, we don't have anything to sell next month.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to talk about too, because in this market, we're cash flow bros, but how we cash flow when there's nothing to buy?
Yeah.
Right, and that's why we kind of always go back to relationships. And it's interesting to hear you talk about this because I know Evan does kind of the same thing. It sounds like you both have like an army. As a solo agent on my end, I hear all this. I'm like, how do I compete? Because there's all these. You guys have roles and people calling, door knocking, flyers. And that's how you build inventory, right? So
to bring inventory in this market,
Yeah.
and I've been in this market many times before, so I feel like one of these business that it goes in cycle, and real estate is one of those. So once the cycle come back, you just have to dust out the playbook and bring it back and play it again, right? And we play in the distress market, we play in the up market. Now we play in the low inventory market. In market like this, what Paige doing is merging herself with companies that create inventory. Not only that, being in a position where people come to you and using your services, and then through there you can make inventory, right? So when I say all that, in real estate, it's pretty much from fixing a house to staging a home all the way to developing a property. That's all the things that you need to do to create new inventory. You know what I mean? And then buying, selling, referral, all those is extra. And that's what traditional business.
Yep.
Traditional business will always going to be there.
Yep.
But in a niche market like this, you have to be creative.
Yeah. So, I mean, with this market, and when you guys probably see this episode, it's going to be a little bit later. But today is Wednesday, May 3rd. And is the day where the Fed is hiking up the interest rates.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you guys are the same as me. I'm so tired of talking about interest rates. I hate it. But at the same time, the regular consumer is so fixated on that. So I guess with that being said, what do you guys think with all the market's going to happen? We already talked about low inventory with another rate hike. What do you think this market environment is going to be like?
Yeah, I think for that, us coming out of it, last year, and then we all know since January, the last couple of months, is kind of like how the pandemic was. When coronavirus was out, people are learning to live with it right now. And because, the housing, people is always going to need housing. So just seeing the activity, offer deadlines coming back, we're seeing that the demand is still there. So there's not enough for us to keep up with the demand. So we're seeing, the activity that's been happening. And just, okay, so there's another rate hike. What does that look like? You look at the real estate market right now, it's still very active. So has people deterred away? Not so much.
Because I want to add on to that, but I also want to point out to a lot of people that are watching this video, depends on where you're watching this video as well. Because, Silicon Valley real estate market is very hyperlocal, right? So whatever happening here doesn't mean it happens somewhere else. However, whatever happening here, it's a ripple effect. It's starting a trend. Hence, Silicon Valley known for the place that we found everything. We start everything, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we have a sneeze here, someone else having a cold, right? And why do I say that? Because we have buying power here. And there's a lot of buying power here in Silicon Valley. And with the lack of inventory and huge demand for housing, the real estate market is still moving. But why are you hearing that the Fed hiking rates and why banks are closing down because of the Fed decisions, and now debt ceilings, all these things are coming in the macro level. I think Fed increased rates affects it in the macro level. Speaking about that as a general, but in specifically Silicon Valley market, it doesn't, to Paige's point, it doesn't happen, it doesn't really do much per se, because we're still hovering around that mindset, the new mindset price point, the interest rate. Because if you are like a buyer that you've been in the market for the last 2 years, then you're bummed out. You're like, oh my God, I used to be spoiled with 3-4%, and now all of a sudden all I'm hearing is 5-6%. My qualification DTI is out of the window. But if you're a new buyer entering the market now, having the income to qualify with the DTI 45% below, you're like, oh, 6%, I'm qualified. That's all you're looking at. You see what I mean? So mindset is different. So hence, I think the buyers nowadays are making the offers are the one that just enter the market in the last few years. In the last years, I would say. So going back to answer your question, I think the Fed high interest rate, it's gonna affect it in the macro level. in a sense, we still have to deal with recessions. We still have to deal with inflation. So that was the only instrument that has been working so far. And compare our country to other country, I think our Fed is doing okay job. You know what I mean? We're not collapsing, right? Hence, I mean, I don't know we're going to get there, but that so far has been the only instrument that the Fed can do to control the inflation rate, right? So that's a whole more conversation, to be honest with you. But in sense, Silicon Valley real estate market, I feel like it's not going to do much. We still have a shorter inventory problem.
Yeah, and I think to that point too, what happens here in Silicon Valley, with the activity, we're probably going to see that come back to several other areas that have that potential as well, right? Because if everybody here is going to be okay with the current environment, it's going to be too competitive, and probably people are going to start going outside again, just like how it was before when everybody started hitting Californians, right? My sister lives in Texas, and she's like, oh, a California plate, right? So I think that's going to happen again. And to that point, I don't want to sound like a regular real estate agent, but it's like right now, it's still confusing. Volatility makes opportunity. So if you are able to buy, it sounds like it's a good idea, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with the economy, but so far it's still been inching up with every little tidbit of news that's happening.
It's funny because people from other state watching this video, and they're like, you guys are crazy. California overpaying for everything. Yeah. But if you ever ask any Californian that moved out of California and ask them, do you ever feel regret? In a sense, they all somewhat feel regret, because I think once you move out of California, and you'll be priced out forever. You know what I mean? Yep. I have a friend that sold a home for $450,000 in Milpitas area and moved to Texas. Bought a house. His house went up double, but his house in Milpitas now is triple or quadruple. Yep. Right? And he wants to move back closer to his family, but he can't afford it now. Yep. So I think people move out of California because they have to. Right, but not that they want to, and but people want to live in California if they can afford it.
And I agree. And to that point, with the whole market environment, and still being in a position to buy if you can, what deals personally are you guys doing right now to kind of let everybody know what are the deals that are transacting? What are the numbers? What does it take to even get into this deal? I mean, for example. I've had this is probably the worst year I've had since I've started real estate. I've only closed 3 deals, and I closed 2 deals my first year ever. So I'm close to my first year again. And with that, the whole market environment, how I got these people into contract is a little bit more creative. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get into, is that what are the deals you guys are seeing now? What are the kind of the numbers, or what does it take to be able to find or get into this deal? Because like I said, for mine, 2 of them were off market. Right. And that's what I'm seeing a lot right now, is these buyers will go straight up to the open house. And this has always been happening, but more so than ever, I feel like, is that because there's no homes available, they're going straight to the source. They're going straight to the seller or the person who works with the seller, and all right, I need to find this deal. So, I mean, what are you guys seeing?
For me, I think we're posting the best quarter in record. So I don't believe it's the market. I believe in the playbook. You know what I mean? This has always been in the playbook, in the low inventory area market like this. We find our deals through many different channels. Social media is one of the platforms that our team rely on heavily. But other than that, our past client. And you touch on off market. We sell a lot of off market because if we have a huge pipelines of buyers, and if we wait for a buyer to go into a property and compete with 30 other offers, our chance of winning a lot less than trying to find something off market and bring it directly to our buyers, and have our buyers opportunity to compete in a smaller pond versus in the mass market. So I think that's always been focusing on finding the deals. It's part of our playbook. How do we find deals? I reach out to all agents, everyone I know, anything they have in the pipeline, working on moving forward. If I can get my client foot in the door the earliest possible, then that's a higher chance for us to get the deal. And also that being a solution provider. We have many sellers that are unable to move. Most seller in this market, and I repeat, they sell it because they have to. They have to. Because one, they may not owe us much. if they own a house for a long time. Two, they probably refinance and get a very low interest rate. The one that I have to because they don't have access to funds. They might be disabled, they might be lost their job, or they might be just downsizing overall.
Yeah.
They say, I can't afford to live here. I can't take money. They house rich but cash poor.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because they don't have access to fund.
Yeah.
Right. And now lenders are being a lot tougher on people that doesn't have income.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't just go in there and get an equity line like you used to. Right. So these are the people that need solutions. So our team been trying to be a solution provider. How can we help them move? Right. And then from there we match up the buyer, the sellers, everyone, boom, everything wrapped up in like 15 days, and that doesn't even have to hit the market.
Talking about creative, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but to help a seller move so you can have that product for inventory. I've even seen you help them move yourself, right, with your own hands. Even for me, man, I had every appointment with this one client, like I had to hold his hand throughout the whole way. But it's like the only way we can these days to get some inventory out there, because you can't just wait and sit for the seller to do it anymore. Like if you know it's the move, then you kind of help them guide through that way. But
so that's the thing right there. People moving because they have to, but they don't know how to. So they are looking to someone like us who have the experience, who have the resources to say, okay, can you come help me pack? Can someone help me move? Can someone move it to the pot and then transfer it to another place? Like in our case, our past client, they need to move to Oregon, right? So they need to sell the house. They need to net exactly 500,000, right? And so that's why they need to, because they're buying a property in Oregon that they need exactly 500,000, right? And everything have to happen all at once. So the 3 transactions have to happen at one time within 10 days, right? So therefore we have to come in and help them move, because if you want that, that's what you want. All the stars have to line up perfectly, right? So we brought in a team of strategists, and we sit down and say, okay, we have a team that specializes in moving. We have a team member, a team that specializes in Oregon. So we got all in the Zoom call and say, okay, how can we help this one particular seller? And then boom, solution came. We executed it and it happened perfectly. Yeah. And I think that's many cases like that. And we also have another family that we're helping right now too. Same thing. So with this market, to find inventory, you have to be the solution provider.
Yeah. And props to that too, because flexible. Because I think a few years ago, it wouldn't have crossed my mind to help a seller move to get his business.
And that's a lot of new agent problem.
Right? Yeah.
Because a lot of new agents that have been in the business less than 5 years, they enter the market where you put the sign in front of the house and it's sold. And you've been spoiled because you've been put in the high pedestal, and the buyer agents are begging you to get an offer accepted. Right. Now it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I totally, I feel that. And it's also, there's a saying that sticks out of my head all the time. And it's the young man knows the rules, but the old man knows the exceptions.
You calling me old?
And, just saying that, a lot of people, when you, like you said, first start this business, you only know one way of doing it. So you think those are the rules, right? But as you get more experience, you get to kind of get more flexible, and we can try to work around that and get you here and do this, right? So, I mean, just respect to that, and kind of give you some more mindset stuff to kind of do these deals.
So then I also want to share my secret weapon on how to get deals, right? Because on top of what Vin shared, what Evan shared, so my secret weapon is being on the home staging side. So I get to preview properties that doesn't hit the market, that people don't know about yet. They're sort of sometimes in limbo. So I have great relationships with agents that I go to the property, we do a walkthrough, we talk numbers, and I get an idea, and we get really close to understanding their motivation for selling. And for me, I always get permissions that I also share, the coming soon, that this property is coming on the market. I share it to my network, and a lot of times the agent wants to work with me. They're like, hey, bring me a buyer. So I've always continuously been able to promote, aside from all their activities, having to be very resourceful, having to, think about, you can't be just an average agent. A lot of buyers that are coming out of the workworks that see who wants to work, they want to know that you have, a whole tool belt of all the things that you can help them, that not just what's on MLS, How are you going to be different?
Yeah.
And for me to work with you. So I lay everything out, being very active. Our team is constantly looking, at off market. We're looking at Facebook groups. We're looking at, email blasts that's coming out to match, what is it that the buyer's looking for. But my thing, that's different is being able to be a stager and getting to check out these properties before they hit the market. Because sometimes a lot of these clients where I also have a connection with property managers where they're like, my client's a landlord. They don't want to fix anything. They want to do very minimal. So if you can find us a buyer and we can save the cost of staging, we can save the cost of all the marketing. So that's always been very helpful because for me to able to promote and advertise that, it's just been great.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to Evan's point is solution-based, right?
Solution-based, yeah.
Being solution-based and going back to how you were open and passionate about everything and also solution-based for your friends, real estate agent friends.
Yeah.
It just birthed out all these opportunities where you're passionate about it, but you're also able to help all your clients.
Yeah, and be able to leverage.
Right.
When you're going out to these properties, it's like if you can't be an undercover agent in this industry and think you're going to make it. People have to know what you're doing, and you have to be very active. You have to show activity.
Yeah.
If you don't show activity, people's going to automatically think you're out of business, right?
Yeah.
So if you're showing what you're doing, all the hard work that actually goes into finding a property, and then when a client comes forward, they know that when they work with you, that you're going to be completely different than the average agent.
Totally. And my last point, and I kind of want to bring this up to you too, Evan, is because we do talk about California a lot, but we do know that there's people listening to this outside of California. And I think for me, whatever you said, Evan, with the solutions and being open and talking to agents, having all those relationships, you don't have to just do that here. I mean, here is hyper competitive, but if you find your niche area somewhere else outside of California or even just outside the Bay Area, you can freaking crush it, right? Because we're just in this high, crazy environment. But taking the stuff that we got and just taking it to somewhere in Atlanta or in Texas that is untapped.
Yeah, I think real estate is the business that what we're really selling is information. You know what I mean? And especially in a market like this, where it's such a dry market of inventory, taking back to the keyword that you all learned is pocket listing, right? I know it's not really a compliant thing anymore, but why did they call it a pocket listing? Because the person literally ripped a page out of the book. Back then there was no MLS. They ripped the page out of the book and pocketed it, right? So they can just keep it to themselves, or less people see it, the less competition. In this business, what you're holding is information, and you get the first one, you get your buyer the first look, then there's a higher chance for you to really close that buyer, right? And let's go back to what we're really doing. That's the playbook in the market like this. And yes, you do have to constantly make calls, and you don't have to make calls to your peers or your client. You can call the agents and get information. You know what I mean? Especially busy agents, sometimes they don't have enough time to get the information out faster enough. But you're like, hey, I have 5 buyers that are looking into that area, right? So Vin told me a property and I have 5 buyers lined up ready to go see. You see what I mean? So that's to me, I feel like we now have to be a creative agent. We have to think outside the box in market like this.
Well, I don't know if you guys are good, but I'm good. That was a lot of great info. And thanks for the impromptu interview and kind of sitting down with us. This was not planned.
It was not planned, but thank you for having me.
You have the teleprompter in the back.
Yeah, it's all scripted.
It's all good.
But follow, and for more, where can people find you, Paige?
You can follow me on Instagram at The Daily Pages. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn.
And you know where to find us. And
Cashflow Bros, thanks for tuning in. If you like this, please subscribe, follow, shares, and we love whenever we get the comments like people are listening to this podcast while they're driving somewhere with their kids. We enjoy it. We try to keep it PG-13 going forward. And also, we're all about sharing ideas and things that can help you generate cash flow.
Yeah, Evan's going to stop flying the F-bombs and all that. So.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys.